Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, well, it's been a weird few weeks. And if Robert Browning knew the situation, he probably would have said, God is in his heaven, Luke is in his Canada, all is right with the world. My host, your friend of mine, Dr. Luke Gledall. How are you doing today, Luke?
Thank you, Rich. It is lovely to be back home. It is lovely to... weirdly, I kind of got into some strange feeling of contentment of being back in the UK, which is nice. But I don't know. It was a strange trip back, extended beyond how longer I wanted to be there. And really, in all this time, it's really comforting to be back home. So thank you.
There's nothing quite like your own space, your own bed, and your fur baby.
Yeah, I got to come back and cuddle with my little Leonard, which is fantastic. So, yeah, fantastic.
And that's what you call your penis, right?
Yes. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's
little
what
Leonard.
we call it snuggle time. Yeah.
Ah, lovely stuff.
Is that a record for us getting into crude masturbation jokes?
Probably.
Okay, well, we're setting new records here on Different Gravy.
Exactly. I mean, we keep setting the bar and then we have to keep raising it.
And then lowering it at times as well?
Yeah. I was thinking, or maybe we're limboing. I don't know.
Well, let's travail up and down that bar like it's a pole, maybe. I don't know. Rich and I are just exotic dancers dancing for money. But anyway, shall we... Is there a better segue to get into talking about the news this week?
He's a dancer for money. Shall we make it clap with some news, Luke?
Let's make it clap with some news. Breaking hoo-hoos.
So, I mean, it's a fairly light. I think I was maybe overly optimistic that this might be a busy week for Wednesday in terms of sorting out a few things. But what we have had happen is some of our loanees have returned, our young loanees. So we've seen Alex Hunt put in an absolute star turn for the under-23s, and Ryan Galvin's back in the fold as well in that regard. And the positive, nice bit of news is we've extended Alex Hunt's contract for another season.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great to see that to some degree we're giving him a bit longer. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, how old is that?
It's a good question.
Is it one that we should probably both know the answer to?
Is I think he's 20 or 21.
Rich thinks he's 20 or 21. He's correct. He is 21.
There you go.
He was born May 29th, 2000, just to make us feel incredibly old.
That's insane. Yes.
That's insane.
Second question, how old does Alex Hunt look?
Usually about 12, 13,
He does look, he's a young looking chap. I think the sportswear doesn't help the young footballers. Like, I believe I've seen enough of his presence, whether it's direct creeping on that I've done myself or through tangential creeping through somebody like Barry Bannon, sort of liking things that he's tweets and instas. But if you're young looking anyway, and you're constantly in like a tracksuit top and tracky bottoms, it really does exacerbate that feeling of being a very, very small boy.
Right, exactly. And he's still a small boy, and he's still got small boy metabolism.
Yes,
so, yeah. Like, I mean, there's no kind of possibility of him really bulking up, is there? That's never really...
I wouldn't have thought so. He'd look like when you see those like ripped children. You see like an 8-year-old that's got a six-pack.
You're talking about some kind of steroided mice.
Yeah. Some Russian Olympian hopeful. Yeah. To what end would him getting buff serve really? But yeah, I mean, he seems to have had quite a good. He's played a lot of football for Grimsby, and it's at the top end of the National League. So you've got to feel that's been a good experience. I think they're sad to see him go, which speaks highly of him. He's got a few goals. He scored an absolute curler for the under-23s this week. Very much like, I've learned some things, boys. Buckle in. I know goals now. Um,
And when I said
some
goals,
kind
I
of
didn't mean the five-a-side plays.
no. Some kind of Grimsby version of the Matrix.
So anyway, our favorite Grimsby blue pillar. Or is it a red pillar?
I was going to say, you could have Morpheus with them being so fish adjacent. Will you take the red snapper or the blue fin tuna?
Blue fishmongius, maybe. Played by Lawrence Fishburne, obviously.
Yes, of course. There you go.
Of course.
It's all coming together.
It's all come together.
It's that shows that the Matrix is real. Because why would he be called Fish and come from Grimsby? Come on, another glitch in the Matrix.
Everyone knows.
Just
Lawrence
pay attention,
Fishburne's
people. You'll see them all the time. But he, by all accounts, seems to be headed towards a loan slightly higher up the football pyramid. Only very slightly higher.
Only very slightly higher. Only maybe a few places. I'm not sure how Grimsby are doing. I know they kind of like at the top, and then I think they kind of flailed a bit.
I think it's one of those divisions where nobody quite wants to be top of the division. It seems like several teams have a go and then fall back and ready themselves for another surge. I think they're just on the outskirts of the playoff picture. That's my last reckoning of it.
So technically, he's going up. He's going up about 9 places.
Yeah, because he's headed to Oldham, who are rock bottom of the football league,
having a real basement battle with Scunny to see who can be bottom of the professional football pyramid.
And do you think there's any strength to the rumor that part of the reason he's going to Oldham is that he gets used to having an owl on his badge?
I think that's totally how it works. Yeah. He's got the white from the Grimsby stripes, and now he's going to get the blue from Loddham.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think rumoured to be the coldest stadium in English football is Oldham. It's a very, very
Is
windy...
it the highest altitude?
It might be. It's a very windy spot.
It is drafty AF as well.
It is.
Me and you have been there.
It's drafty AF.
I mean, it is drafty AF.
It's a bone acre if you're there on a cold evening.
Anyway, yeah, should that happen, best of luck to Alex Hunt if he carries on his development. And I don't know, it's there's this weird thing, I guess, of like we never seem to tie youngsters down to particularly lengthy contracts.
No,
unless they're Cameron Dawson.
yeah.
And he's not really that young anymore, isn't it? We've talked about Cameron Dawson.
Yeah.
But like, how much of this is like? I mean, maybe there's an upside, and maybe he could develop into a first-team Sheffield Wednesday football player. Who knows? I'm not going to completely write that off, but it does feel a bit like we're kicking the can down the road with the youngsters.
It's a bit of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was rumoured to be a fair amount of interest in him. As I mean, I know we have been round that particular merry-go-round many a time. What's that? 6 months left on your contract? There's rumours of interest from Rangers and several Premier League teams. An unnamed Championship team is believed to have watched the last 3 matches. Just dust off the old story. The agent's got like, should we update this at all? No, get it in there.
He was being watched by a shadowy figure from some nondescript Championship side. Someone confronted this character and said, "Who do you work for?" And he said, "You'll have heard of them." And he scuttled off.
He surreptitiously tapped his nose and disappeared into the shadowy distance.
Oh dear. And also maybe that's a segue. Another piece of news as well, which cropped up in the local links with young Bailey Delamitri. I said Delamitri because I Kada Matari Damasay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can never pronounce Kada Matari. Kada Matari.
I always thought it was Kadamatri, but who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, that young gentleman is apparently on the radar of some Premier League clubs. Some that were named, which I've completely forgotten, but it doesn't really matter because it could well be true that he could well kind of, it kind of makes, somebody did say on, I think it was Alstott, basically made the point of saying, well, what's really the point of having an academy, really? But I think we're kind of living with the times and the way that the capitalism of football kind of marches on, that who knows, any Premier League club can just come and just steal a child from you, basically.
There's been a very kind of oddly paternal theme to things thus far.
It's like a reverse, as we call it, Rich. We call it in the football academy system, and I know. We call it reverse stalk. That's what we call
it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a rigged game that we are all playing. So I suppose there is a conversation to be had about whether it's worth having an academy. Because I was just thinking, like, what was the difference with Dawson? Presumably there was just some magic kind of like Venn diagram of just enough interest to make us fearful of losing him, but not enough actual interest to make him go somewhere else. Like, Cameron Dawson fits perfectly in that. Like, if you've got some legitimate interest from elsewhere, they're going to be able to blow us out of the water. And we don't seem that bothered.
Yeah.
But if there's just a little modicum of interest, but it doesn't amount to very much, then maybe we'll have a nibble and give you another year or two.
The final thing I want to kind of say, just a little bit while we're in, Rich and I were talking prior to the show about like what news there is, and we talked about transfer linkings. We never, I think we completely forgot. I think we missed in the timing of our show the transfer rumors was linking us with Mark Beavers.
Yes,
which would be interesting. I don't think I'd be having Mark Beavers back for half a season, maybe even longer. Who knows?
He captained the Peterborough side that got promoted last season, didn't he? So presumably he's still of a pretty good standard. He's early 30s now, isn't he? Is he
32? I want to say
32, which for a centre back is not a death knell, really. He probably has got a couple of years. He's never been quick, so presumably he probably would be able to keep playing to a decent standard for another year or two, I would think.
And then who else have we had recently linked as well, just to move on from that? I mean, was it Cameron Archer at Villa?
Yeah, a red hot prospect. And you know what we like to do with those, Luke?
Bring him in and have him do football for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. We see a red hot prospect and think, we can cool those down. We can cool your jets, Sonny Jim. How about pissing away 6 months of your life on our bench looking more... Look on longingly as Saido Berahino gets started for the umpteenth time ahead of you. This is what football is. You better get to like it if you're going to do it for a job, you stupid, talented idiot. Yeah, I mean, he's vaguely sort of described as a forward, isn't he? Or is he an out-and-out striker?
I think from what we know, just a forward, I think is kind of given.
Yeah.
Not sure. He did get a hat-trick in the League Cup against Barrow.
Oh, okay.
So there we go. And then in the third round of that cup, scored against Chelsea in a 1-1 draw. That Chelsea
fair enough.
Penalties. So yeah, who knows? I don't know. Maybe there could be something in that with the old links that Darren's got around that neck of the woods, and
yeah,
who knows? I want to say, so I mean, a smattering of linkage, both in and out of Sheffield Wednesday Football Club.
Yes.
I do want to add as well is that I try and give some decent shrift to the local media for the work they do. Did you happen to see? There was a couple of really bad articles in the past week and a bit. One from Dom Howson where he outlined who could replace Theo Cabano, and basically just mentioned some of the players we know at the club who are not particularly great on the wing. So that constitutes an article that's clodded up some pixels on the internet. That was such a terrible shit article. Really, really annoyed me. I thought it was going to be about people who we could potentially bring in. Which I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe if you give enough provision that like journalists could do such a thing to try and The other article, which I thought was absolutely silly, was Joe Cran doing an article about how much work he's put in to get nothing. Did you see that?
No.
Like he's like, I spend a lot of time like ringing around to see if there's any truth in any of these links. Oh, and I spend so much time because I don't publish anything if there's nothing in it. So this is the life of a journalist during the January transfer or the transfer window.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you, mate. Like,
this is you've got to be a bit. It's like Crimea River.
This is unfortunately your life, my friend. This is also a bad article.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what life's like for every person that does a job? It's like doing stuff, and then you do it, and then it's done, and then you start the day again, and you wake up.
You know that thing you were doing yesterday, and you didn't get done. Yeah, you got to come back tomorrow and finish it off, or at least progress it to the next day. Yeah. You
wake up, you do a thing that's mainly meaningless. You finish, you shove some calories in your face. You go to bed, wake up, and do it again. New article by Joe Cran. Life is misery.
He seems like a decent enough guy, but I was like,
oh yeah.
Sorry, mate. I just don't give a. I really don't care. Really, really don't.
Yeah.
Soz, mate.
I was trying to like imagine what Dom Howson would say on handing in his article that you hated so much. Like a click's a click, or just crapped in my hands. Do you like it?
Shall bring in some ad revenue.
Oh, should we really annoy them and make them answer the Google survey before they get to read it?
Well, joke's on you. I skipped the survey. Then I read the whole article.
Google survey. How many children are in your house? There's none. There's still none. Do you know, honestly, Google, I'll update you. If there's ever a child in my house, I'll get in touch with you, Google, and let you know. Stop asking me. I'm bored of it. You must be bored. Oh dear. Anyway,
which one of these brands have you heard before? Well, does it count if I've heard of them now? Because you've told me. Does that count?
Do you also get the ones where it's like, of these did you recently Google? Princess Garden, mystery such and such, Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, and so it was like probably the Sheffield Wednesday Football Club one. I think this is not a difficult quiz for me, Google. Should we? I think should we talk about transfers after we've talked about the match? Because I felt one way coming into this week, and I feel slightly different. As of this weekend. Sure,
you can do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've said everything.
I suppose it's just, do we still probably do want a centre back or two, don't we?
Oh yeah. But I mean, we're always going to have. I think it's the nature of us being a pretty inconsistent side that sometimes it's going to work without any of the options we want, right?
Yeah. It's just if we're in a position now where hopefully Hutch is back for a little while. Hope, is it beyond hope to say I think he'll be fit for a couple of months? If we're in that position where we've got Hutch and Dunkley on top of the 2 or 3 players that have been doing the job there, Brennan's back in the fold. Palmer does a job everywhere. It's just I'm wondering whether that necessity feels as sort of primary as it was if we do get some of the bodies back that we already have on the. I think probably I would still like it, but it's just in an ideal world, does that stop being the absolute priority?
Let's go through the game and we'll talk.
Yes,
okay. Post match. Okay.
Fair enough. So we welcomed Plymouth. In spite of myself, was excited on the way to the match because it's been so blooming long since we've played a game at Hillsborough. Is it? No, it may be November. It may be a full month and change since we were at Hillsborough, I think. Certainly since I was at Hillsborough. I don't know whether there was a midweek game in there. But, hard to, despite the fact that I have been taught it's wrong to get excited about Sheffield Wednesday so many times before, I couldn't stop my little my little heart from soaring as I wound my way across the Pennines. But a bit of, I mean, obviously a bit wary. Plymouth have absolutely done us over twice this season. I know there's a new manager in place there. They've not quite been the formidable force they were when we first went to their ground. But yeah, it's felt like a side that's probably got our number. So going into it, we got the same. So we basically got Farrell, we got Palmer, Hutchinson, and Johnson as the back three again. Mendez-Laing playing left wing back. Jack Hunt on the right wing back. Luongo drops straight back in after his suspension and makes a midfield three with Bannon and Fizeo Dili-Bashiru. And then up top, the surprise of the wild card was Sow joining Gregory.
Our own It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Charlie Kelly, Sow.
Someone who we've clamoured for some more game time for, even out of desperation of like, surely he can't be any worse than what's been. Particularly, I'm thinking Berahino, but it's not just been Berahino that have been the culprits in those positions.
Again, it's the thing though of like, why now?
I just don't know.
We seem to have very strange. Like, it's the thing with Corbeanu. It's like when he played. When on the occasions he did play, why have you decided that now he is an option?
You come away from. We'll talk about the game, and it was a joy of a game to watch. It's the sort of thing as well. You know, for a neutral, I'd imagine it would be a great game, but for a Wednesday fan, it was tremendous. So we'll get into that. Don't worry, because my sister Sue did sort of say, I wonder how you're going to make this one sound negative. But I do think naturally, to an extent, the two questions you kind of come away, the burning questions you come away from today's game with are, why has it taken until whatever the 15th or 16th of January for us to see Sow played in a league game in a position where he's shone actually in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. And also, why did we dally so much in terms of bringing in Mendez-Laing? Because presumably we could have had a couple of months of him playing if we'd signed him sooner.
It's interesting with Mendez-Laing. So in my notes, so I've put, wow, Sow plays, Luke loves lineups. The little first paragraph of every other note I do, detailing every Sheffield Wednesday game we cover on the podcast. Starting ahead of Windass and Patterson. I mean, Windass, granted,
both injury worries though.
Injury worries. I've kind of missed it with Patterson. What happened?
He went off, didn't he, in his last game?
He did, yes. Sorry, he did
had
go off and
clash on the sidelines with somebody and went off after about 20 minutes. So
maybe that's a bigger talking point. Is that Moore went with Sow over his mate Berahino.
It's interesting. As you say, I mean, it beggars belief in a way, because why now? There's been so many times where we've been looking, and in particular the role he played today. So what essentially how those two worked as a pairing was Gregory pretty much held the centre ground and so worked the channels. And he did it in a fashion that it's sort of what we've been crying out for all season. And I don't think anybody else has done that job as effectively as Sow did it today.
Completely.
And it's so pardon the pun, but it's very strange that it's taken till now to see that.
Yeah, I mean,
it meant we had that second ball. Sorry, just to kind of close that thought, because so often our passing around the back has failed because there's no outball. Gregory's not big enough to be an outball. But if you can just fling it down the channels and somebody is there and willing to chase lost causes and make them work down the channels, that is kind of a tactic as old as time. I mean, it's Paul Sturrock made a career out of it. You get pacey players who threaten in behind and you get the ball down the channels.
Yeah. I mean, really, the only thing I really want to say, Rich, is there are winners and losers in life, right, Rich? Berahino is, thanks to Berahino eating some of Darren Moore's yogurts and Darren getting pissed off about that, he's lost out. But we are truly the victors, because we got to see a front pairing which I think like feels a little bit kind of rudimentary in some ways. Like I
In
mean,
some
like
ways, yeah.
Gregory's not quite the he's not quite the what how should I say? He's not quite the big to the little man partnership.
No, no.
But still they're kind of more he's more of a target man and so is more of the kind of live wire pacey
And we, I mean, pretty much from the get go, this is just very good, solid stuff, right?
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, like just from the get-go, we're right at it. We're going at them. We're again, as you said, we're attacking that space, we're playing the ball into those areas, and we're doing well with it and having a bit of fortune, maybe perhaps on a few occasions, but no, it's we're going for it, we're not letting the work rate is there.
Do you know, I'll be honest, just one thing, just to kind of correct myself slightly. We're saying from the get-go, but actually the very first few moments looked very like when we played Plymouth previous, which we got sort of got into trouble passing around the back very, very early doors. And then that's when we suddenly looked, we kind of then went, okay, we've got a second option here, and that is going long down these channels. And that's what Plymouth didn't have an answer to. It just felt like we'd kind of like they'd come with their plan, and we'd gone, oh yeah, that plan. Oh yeah, we know how to do that now. So, and they didn't have their second option that was effectively the very first, and I'm not talking very long, probably talking just a couple of minutes of the game, but it felt like that kind of pressure play that they had us under at their place the first time round, but we had an answer to it this time, which was great. We suddenly sort of worked the ball out wider and longer, and then things started to click for us, and we started to provide our own threat. So I don't know. There was just a flurry of chances this first half, and several players having those chances. I don't. So I sort of remember the incidents, but I don't necessarily sort of remember the exact order. You've probably got a bit more form to your notes.
I do, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, because I mean, looking back, there's a lot of like incidents going for this in this game. 7th minute, that was a bit of good fortune, and that was Gregory who kind of knocked it onto Sow, and then he teed off to Hunt. Hunt was there on the angle, and he really hit one that cracked into the side netting. And I think there was probably some portions of the ground that thought that one was in, because it's it's in that kind of weird nebulous corridor where, a shot the side netting looks like it could have crept in through the side.
Yeah, it was a vicious strike, wasn't it? But yeah, unfortunately, just wide of the post. But using that width against them that's what happened time and time again, wasn't it? We seemed to sort of manage to suck them into over committing in the middle, and then had our options out wide. And often it was Hunt, actually. A very, very willing runner, particularly in that first half. So I'm thinking of Hunt had a couple of opportunities. That was the first of them. He had a header that he was very close to connecting with. So yeah, I'm trying to sort of piece together when things happened. So because Deli Bashiru had an effort, Bannon had a couple of really good efforts. It was just it felt like we just was so inventive going forward, and had had too much for Plymouth, made them look very, very ordinary throughout the half.
We had some really good moments, especially coming on that left as well. And Mendez-Laing did very, very well today. He's really shoving my words back at me that, like, we're waiting for him to kind of come good. And this was really the game for him to make his.
Sorry, go on.
No, just the game for him to make his entrance, I'll be honest. So, I mean, one thing I really have to say is, like, I'm really glad he's playing, because he is giving us some very good option in the corners. I mean, it seemed like we could well have scored more goals today, and it felt that if it hadn't panned out the way it had, like, especially looking at some kind of jumping ahead to when it was 2-1, and then it just felt like I really hope that we don't. We're not again in a situation where we're coming out of this saying that we really deserve to be the winners today, and we should have got all 3 points as opposed to 1, which can genuinely happen. And
We've seen it too often, haven't we?
We have. We've been there. We've seen it too often. 14th minute, there's a good ball forward. Sow showed some quick feet and pace. Plymouth then cleared behind in a panic, and then Mendez-Laing does a really deep corner, great cross that kind of didn't really come to anything. 17th minute, again, he's in the action, and there's actually a bit of a kind of foreshadowing to, how he scores later. And that's, he does that thing where he's on the left, he's running with it. He's coming forward, and most of the time, probably 4 out of 5 times, the Plymouth defenders really don't have an answer to what he's doing when he's running at them. And he kind of put it on and did his great kind of curling efforts. That was parried away by the Plymouth keeper. That seemed to be something he's very comfortable doing. It's very much in his locker. The Wednesday media, the Wednesday Twitter account did make a point of looking at him doing the warm-up and him rifling one into the top right corner. So that seems to be how he can finish. And then obviously that's probably, we can put a pin in that and come back to that later. But he was looking great today. It was parried away. So couldn't get together on the 17th minute. We were really looking dangerous. And on the 18th minute, there was Gregory having a header, which I don't know, maybe could have done a little bit better with Rich. What do you think?
Maybe. I mean, it was a lovely. That was Palmer on the overlap played the cross in, didn't he? And it was a real beauty cross, just up, so nice. And I don't. Because I think Gregory probably by the time he gets there, he's like right at the far post, if not beyond the far post. So he's kind of got to get it across goal. I think he did what you're supposed to do. I think he got it back, and he sort of used the pace of the ball, so he put it back where it came from, and he headed it down, which is all the things you're supposed to do. But the keeper was just equal to the keeper. Kind of, it's weird to say this when you see the final score, but the keeper certainly in the first half made some tremendous saves. That one from Mendez-Laing was a very good save. Whether it was poor striking or good goalkeeping, who knows? But he was there to make that save from Gregory in the position we've seen Wednesday keepers so often do that useless, like froggy star jump as the ball bounces past them into the goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that was all kind of the build-up, and then we got the first goal, which was us finally scoring against Plymouth. It's only taken us probably minus stoppage time, and to not be too anal with it, Rich. 289 minutes of proper actual football. If we're including stoppage time, we're probably looking well over 300 minutes. So really, basically, about 5 hours of playing against Plymouth. We finally done it. We finally against the Southern Pilgrims. I kind of blanked against how this kind of ran out. The cross kind of came in, and it seemed a bit of pinball. Oh, there's gonna be some editing.
This is my favorite song. Keep singing it.
Love it.
Ping ball, ping ball.
And so struck one in and pinged in off the goal.
I think it was, wasn't it? I think it was a Bannon corner that kind of came straight back out. I think it might have been a fairly poor Bannon corner, to be honest. But Mendez-Laing was out with him on the flank and sort of fed a pass cross in low. I think they were all set up for the high ball to come in again, and I think it threw them that we had this sort of pass fed in at foot level, and So was the first one to get there and turn it home. But good finish. That's the other thing. Some people go at hiding. When you look at the goals that So has scored for us, he backs himself. Some people form affects what they do and what they take on. I get the feeling that So kind of wakes up and pats himself on the back every day. I think he seems to be pretty resilient as a character, because some of the things he's taken on and the chances he's scored for us in I know it's albeit a lower level of competition, but it sort of shows you that he's a guy that's going to back himself. He's not going to go hiding. He's not going to shy away from a chance, and putting himself in the right position to make things happen. And in this case, finally, as you say, breaking that deadlock, finally getting us off the mark against the Pilgrims. And in a game, this was Wednesday scoring we needed to score. We were on top. We were running the show. we've seen so many games this season, but through the years at Wednesday, where that translates. You have 20 minutes of football, you don't get that goal, and then you sort of slide back, and then by half-time you come in and it's 0-0 or 1-0 to the opposition, and you kind of go, oh, the first 20 minutes were good though, weren't they? And it's like, yeah, well, what does it count for? If you don't get the ball in the back of the net, it doesn't count for much, unfortunately. And yeah, thankfully we did it, and so we won, and that did it. So yeah, like I say, there was almost, it seemed like almost everybody had a chance. So Gregory had that header.
Well,
so
a bit later, there's the next thing I'd probably come on to, Rich, is the 24th minute. Gregory had another like kind of little chance, which was kind of maybe him being put in a difficult situation, but that was Luongo surging forward, and he just, I mean, we all know, and we will say very much on this podcast, how big fans we are of Massimo Luongo. When he is fit, when he is firing, when he's playing for Sheffield Wednesday. And really just a huge difference maker. And he pinged over like a lovely short diagonal over to Gregory. Gregory did very well to control it. I felt the first chance he tried to take a bite at it. It was a bit of a scuff. Then it came back out, and I like his thinking. I like how reactive he tries to react to the moment, to try something very close and very short at the near post.
Yeah,
and it pings off, unfortunately, the post.
It was unfortunate, wasn't it? That was great. It was a great idea.
And then darts out of play for a throw and get it back. 31st minute, again, more great vision from Luongo, and he's almost bringing in some of the stuff that we'd kind of expect from Barry Bannon.
So he's got some passing in his locker.
He really does, yeah. And he kind of threaded one through for Bannon.
Oh, I'd love that. If that had been a goal, that would have been my favourite. Sorry, I'm trampling over it because I just loved the moment so much. But I'll let you.
Do.
Sorry.
No, please do, Rich. Please trample.
No, but he spots Bannon makes this run. Nobody in the Plymouth defence reacts for a while, and then suddenly the left back or the right back sort of twigs that actually maybe somebody should do something defensively. But Luongo picks him out with this pass. Touch from Bannon was gorgeous, his first touch, but unfortunately he laid himself up on his right foot, and
he kind of squared it out of play, didn't really?
What's the opposite of this was not making a out of sounds. It was like I don't know, cutting in a silk purse and giving it to somebody. Had this gorgeous gift presented to him in that ball, and then he probably, I don't know, it's just his composure is just not there in these moments. He's so composed under desperate situations at the back so often, when he like spins and comes away with the ball and there's 3 or 4 men around it, that whatever mentality sees him through those moments of possession more often than not, it just completely disappears when it's a goalkeeper. Well, we've talked about him. We've talked about a goal attacking Barry Bannon as a child and scarring him for life. It's was it more present than today. He built edge chances, and that would have been one of the goals of the season, because the pass is fantastic. The run, touch was wonderful, but the finish was utter dross, unfortunately. Not befitting all that went before it. But it started to take on the feeling. So just in terms of highlighting sort of things that were working well in those moments, you mentioned that left side. I thought that whole of the left side just seemed to be so in tune and dangerous, and it just felt at any moment something could just break out of there. And it was all 3 of those players. Like Johnson was a big part of that. I think Johnson being a threat meant that the left wing back couldn't fully pay attention to Mendez-Laing, which meant that Mendez-Laing more often than not got to run at the right-sided centre-back, and he was just not comfortable with the pace that he was carrying the ball with. But Sow was a part of that as well. He was mixed in and keeping things running and offering an option that meant that Mendez-Laing could cut inside. Honestly, I think that right-sided centre-back will be tossing Mendez-Laing. He'd wake up in the middle of the night doing that. he will have nightmares about the torrid time he was given by our left wing back today. But a big part of that was managed to the way that we Johnson sort of exposed or Palmer exposed by a team. We actually managed to ice and expose I guess a chink in their armour. But it did feel like things were sort of fizzling, sort of doing that half-time fizzle out to a half-time thing that happens in matches. There was another. When was? I'm sorry, just apologize. We set up a great opportunity for Deli Bashiru as well. I think that was Sow that played it to him as well, but that he just absolutely leant back and skied it. But I can't remember whether that came before or after the second goal.
I do remember that. That's something I kind of missed from my notes. But yeah, I remembered when he funded that one over, and I remember just shouting at the TV because I was just so disappointed with that finish.
I know.
But anyway.
He had a good game, though. Deli Bashiru also. Today's the sort of game where everybody kind of mucked in and played a part, but he was shining when he got his moments. So do you want to take us through the goal? Are we at the goal? The second goal?
I think we're almost there. Yeah, I would say let's go ahead with that. The 40th minute, again, it's Massimo Luongo just cutting through Plymouth. And he did a wonderful kind of lofted through ball, freeing up Mendez-Laing. He was in acres of space. He dances forward, cuts inside, and then does basically what he tried to do before. This time he connects with it even sweeter, has a space, finishes in 2-0.
If you've not seen the goal and you're trying to picture it, it's what Harris tried to do 20 times a game, every game, for 2 seasons. But he did it properly.
So you're saying that Mendez-Laing perfected the Harris?
I'm saying he did, yeah. We all know famously that Fosbury, the inventor of the Fosbury flop, would constantly run straight into the pole. But then his mate came after him and actually managed to turn it into a workable high jump. And in the same way, Harris, as the inventor, was doomed to fail, but those who came after were able to benefit from his work. Oh, what a goal! There's the ball is beautiful. It's well thought out. It shows this threat that we constantly had down those flanks. We constantly had that threat, and we had it down both sides because Hunt was just as kind of active. He's not as dangerous as Mendez-Laing. He's probably not as quick or as strong, but he has other things to his game, as we will get to in the second half. But I also loved the fact that Sow and him clearly, like, Mendez-Laing yelled to say kind of to Sow, you're offside, I need to go get this. Like, there's clearly was a conversation happened. I'm sure they didn't say it as nicely as that. But Sow went with him as well. Like, the fact Sow is battering into the middle means that they can't just go and clear out Mendez-Laing.
Yeah.
It means you've got this one man who's running as fast as he can backwards, desperately trying to cover off Mendez-Laing, whilst the other people are marking our other runners. But yeah, when it comes down to it, this is just, it's raw power cutting inside, and it's a fantastic curling finish. Great stuff. Today, Mendez-Laing looked a long way from a League One player.
Oh, totally.
I hope this is the beginning of something rather special, because if we're talking about players who have kind of sullied their name and maybe kind of last chance saloon sort of position, this is what you're supposed to do when you're in those stakes, this sort of performance. And he's in that sort of, he's in that sort of place in his career. There's no sort of ambiguity or beating around the bush on that. He's playing like a man who wants to keep his career going and is willing to kind of pull out all the stops, and that, yeah, it was great to see. He was unplayable this first half. He had bags of energy. He's so strong. He's weird. He's so big.
I know. I
don't know. He's such a bizarre shape for a quick player. He's almost really gangly.
Yeah. But it's kind of like a compact gangliness.
Compact gangliness, but also like broad as well. He's massive. He's got such broad shoulders, a big chest, big barrel chest. He's sort of fascinating as a physiological figure.
Very much so.
But but once gets going, he takes some stopping. And we've seen some end product, thankfully. This is, I think, the argument would be he's shown some promise in those areas previously in the Wednesday shirt, and we've not really seen the end product. But the passes were good, the crossing was good, and the shooting was good today. And that makes quite a formidable package.
I think to sum off the to really cap off the end of the first half, I really want to talk about that final Bannon chance. So Bannon just completely taking the piss. You know, Wednesday having some real champagne football. We're just stroking it around. Bannon basically sells one of their players for a hot dog defensively in a very defensive situation. Such is the composure and the confidence and the swagger that we're just swinging our chaps about with. And so he does that. He sparks a counterattack. And then essentially he is running the length of the pitch for us to cycle it up round the right. I think it was Hunt who got the cross in. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Hunt did a really good cross. And, you know, Bannon has met that. He's a bit of a tame header. But I must say, what a chance. Just every bit of the build-up of that is scintillating. Just what a beautiful way to end off the first half.
It was great. You're just begging him to kind of like take that little step back and just lace it, really, because it's that sort of trajectory on the cross, wasn't it, where it was kind of coming down, which is why the cross is sort of looped into him, which is why he can't get much power on his header. But it also would have set it up that probably could have like leant back and just volleyed it as well. Like that's how the ball was arcing towards him. Gorgeous moment. I should just share match defensively deal with, but another just a little highlight. I can't remember where it fell in the timeline of things, but it's just worth mentioning in terms of I think he might come into some criticism second half. But the moment where Sam Hutchinson had to come and bail out Johnson in the left fullback position, and ended up sort of charging the line in a way that you're like, oh, don't go and injure yourself, don't be stupid. But he's like battering up the line. The play sort of fell apart, and then by the time Plymouth got the ball back and played the ball forward, Sam Hutchinson had gone from being, I guess, 3/4 of the way up the pitch on the left flank to right back in the middle of the defence and heading the clearance, which is just, that was fantastic, and I think got a kind of round of applause and a round of Sammy, and it was well deserved. Just a very fun sort of ball action moment from our aging centre back. I mean, it'd easily been 4 or 5. That's often when people say that, there's some exaggeration, but this was some poor finishing and some good goalkeeping away from that scoreline absolutely being the case. Plymouth were lucky that it was only 2-0, I would say, and nothing from Plymouth. I mean, literally nothing. I don't think they had the ball in our half. I don't think they had a set piece.
No, they had no goal attempts whatsoever. And we had 12 goal attempts, 5 of which were on goal, and they had 0 and 0. You know, we had the bulk of the possession, about 55 to 45%.
They were missing Hardy, weren't they? Who's been a real thorn in our side.
Well, they're also missing,
I don't know what's happened.
We knew that they were missing
Camera,
very much so.
Yeah, he's at the African Cup of Nations. I'd forgotten about that. He's such a good player. They looked. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, well, we'll get to the second half. The second half is interesting because there's a bit more light and shade, isn't there? But certainly that first half, completely pedestrian, is what Plymouth looked like. They just had nothing for us. They looked low on confidence. They sort of passed it around the back, but quite often got caught in possession by passing it around the back. The two front men barely had any touches of the ball at all. They really couldn't get through the lines. It wasn't necessarily a defensive thing from Wednesday. It was just like when we had so much possession and we were looking dangerous in possession. So it was an all-out great performance that first half. The second half kicks off. Plymouth came out very early for that second half.
They were milling around for quite a while, weren't they? They didn't make any substitutions, did they?
No, they didn't. No. I don't know whether it was one of the one of those managerial talks. It was like, just get out of here. I don't even want to look at you. A John Sitton special. But yeah, they were out early, and Wednesday came out so late that they missed the start of the second half and didn't.
Do you think they were spiritually with me, Rich, when I went to take a dump just as a second half? So I actually missed. I missed the goal. I missed the Plymouth goal.
It was a real. I mean, yeah, it was. If they were spiritually in the toilet with you, then that would explain some things, because we really, yeah, we really didn't come out G'd up and clued in for that second half. I mean, it felt like almost immediately. I don't know if that's real or not. Like looking back, I mean, when did they score? What was the minute?
It was the 46th minute, but essentially they kind of came from the off. They teed some passes around, they stroked it forward. We fouled one of their players, just outside the box, on the left on the angle. Up steps Randall and curled it very neatly into the corner. I mean, it was a gorgeous finish. It's got to be said. I went back and watched that one at the end of the game. I was a bit frustrated. I didn't get any highlight package at the end of the game, Rich. It just went to an iFollow blank
that's
screen
a shame,
after some adverts.
You want to drink it in a bit, don't you?
You do, completely.
And if you're a real sick freak like me, you want to drink it in whether you've won or lost. I want to see it back, play it back, and lick my wounds when it's been a bad one, and I want to play it back and drink it all in when it's been a goodie. We have taken to sort of perching ourselves in one of the corners of the cop, a bit like sort of Phantom of the Opera, sort of skulking around in the background of things. I mean
Statler of the Opera.
Statler of the Opera. Inside our minds. So we had a sort of perfect view where it just looked like, how could he not score? Like that we could see the goal, not very much of a wall, and it just looked huge where the area he had to hit. They had a left footer on one side, a right footer on the other, so it could have gone either way in terms of which way the curl was going to go. And it was pretty postage stampy, wasn't it? It was right in at the post. I don't know if it was all the way up at the top of the goal, but it was a very, very fine curled round the wall finish into the near post, and giving Bailey Peacock-Farrell no chance, really. I don't know whether he got his wall wrong. There's always questions when a free kick happens, but I think there's also an element of, I think most goalkeepers are kind of giving you it. If you absolutely nail it, you're going to get away with that, but I'll have everything else. And unfortunately, in this case, he absolutely nailed it. It was a very, very fine finish. And we just hadn't really got going. I mean, it barely kicked off. And now we're that 2-0 lead, that nightmare 2-0 lead that Chris Turner used to talk about is playing on our minds. So we just sort of got ourselves together after a little bit of, we were a bit shook up, but we quite quickly kind of gathered our thoughts and confidences. We didn't look like we were rocking and reeling, really. The fact Plymouth had barely had a touch in our half before didn't really change massively after their goal, which was good. We had our own sort of free kick that Bannon hit, didn't we? But I think he crossed it instead of having a shot. We had a similar kind of distanced free kick where I was wondering if Mendez-Laing had a really long, jaunty Roberto Carlos-esque free kick in him from distance, but it was a Bannon cross instead. So
I thought it was interesting because I mean it's hard for us to kind of keep that kind of pace going. We looked a little bit quiet and a little bit subdued, but I mean I thought we still looked decent. In the process. I mean, I think in some games we'd still kind of enjoy this passage of play. We'd still enjoy some of what we've been given if it was in a different game. you know, maybe it's a little bit after
It
the Lord
wasn't
Mayor's
bad, but it
show.
wasn't what it was. What we'd had in the first half, was it? That's the
No,
thing.
no.
It was a way off where we'd been, but it was still probably probably still fairly good football by and large.
And I think it was probably like, seems to be in terms of my notes, and I think it was probably about 10 minutes, you know, the beginning of the birth of the second half, that there wasn't a great deal there. I remember a very harsh yellow on Luongo.
Very, very harsh.
Which, interestingly enough, I mean, we were playing so well and there wasn't anything really contentious, and the referee was kind of playing along with that pretty well. But there was a spate of a couple of really bad decisions.
There was. I also actually, to pull him up on a bad decision, in the first half, there was one where Mendez-Laing, he got a bit lucky, kind of knocked the ball. He sort of ran into his man, but the ball went through him and he got round the other side. And the Plymouth player just grabbed him with both arms and tried to haul him back as hard as he could. Like it wasn't a rugby tackle because Mendez-Laing was too big and strong to be tackled. It was like a rugby tackle on prime Jonah Lumu. And RIP. And the ref didn't go back and book him. And I just thought that you couldn't have got a clearer. It could not have been a clearer yellow card. It was so cynical. Just the fact that it didn't work shouldn't stop it. That shouldn't stop it being a yellow. And he made a big point of going and talking to him, which I'd love to know what they say. Just you, please don't grab him round the waist with both arms, okay? Please don't do that again. But yeah, that yellow on Luongo was harsh. Luongo, one of very few mistakes from Luongo. He kind of misread the play, and in order to make up for it, put in a pretty lunging tackle. But it wasn't dangerous, and it wasn't a bad tackle at all. It was just probably a little bit overzealous. And for the first incident of any sort like that, it was pretty harsh to give him a yellow card straight off.
So that's one of two pretty bad decisions in my notes I want to kind of give. And these bad decisions are kind of like the really bad stale bread in between two half decent chances on this sandwich. So it's not like it's not a big Scooby-Doo sandwich, but it's packed with a couple of meaty ingredients, fillings in the middle of these. 56th minute, Gregory won a corner, which he had it. That was the one he kind of won it out on the left, and he was kind of bringing it in. And you know, obviously with the pace of Gregory, it's not gonna particularly go fantastically. No. Let's be brutally honest. We got a corner from that. Mendez-Laing swung another one brilliantly over. No one was there. Another occasion where, you know, one of his great corners not looking like the score from, but then maybe that was the one
where if Hutch had an Elvis quiff, it would have been a goal. He was so close to just it was sort of whizzed past his forehead.
Straight after that, Luongo cut inside. He unleashed a great shot. Now I can't remember from. I want to ask you from your recollection. Was that stopped by the keeper or was it stopped by one of her defenders?
The defender, it was a good block from a defender. I think that defender on the left-hand side did some really good kind of body on the line type defending at times. Because to be that Deli Bashiru chance, he slid across. So I think the part of the reason Deli Bashiru skied it is he knew he couldn't play it along the floor. So he was putting himself out there. Did you find it? So I'm intrigued to what the second bad decision is. We should finish off the sandwich. We should put the
no, that's the two ingredients. We're coming to the really the foul, rotten, moldy bum piece of the bread, the bum end of the bread. I'm not quite so sure the all crust.
We call that an outsider in our house.
That's very.
It's my favorite.
It's very literally of you, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. We're famously very literary in the Miller household.
Bit like an Albert Camus book, isn't it?
Don't say that.
You have something else to ask me, Rich. What are you going to ask me?
Well, no. Did you pick up on and similarly find it bizarre that at 2-1 down, Plymouth seemed to start doing time wasting?
I didn't notice that at all. I'll be honest. That's quite funny.
Well, there was a long injury break for number 4, Horton. He was down
Right.
for a long, long time, and he did one of those. You know, he was close to the byline. He should have gone it off behind the goal, but he made a point of walking to the near side with the physios, and on that walk, he sort of, you know, when they're kind of like hobbling arm in arm with the physio, and then they need to bend down because it's really quite painful at that point. He did 2 elongated stops on his sort of long walk back to the sideline. The keeper was taking time, and they got told off by the referee for time wasting on a throw-in. All of this whilst losing the game. And I don't know whether they were so kind of high on their own hubris that they just thought, well, we'll go and grab a goal and then it'll be good for us when we've time wasted because we're going to grab a goal at the end. I don't know whether it was that or whether they just kind of lost their minds and were just so intent on being sort of scrubbers at Hillsborough that they just couldn't not do it, even when it was against their own interest. Very weird.
Very strange. Anyway, so 60th minute, Palmer was unleashed, you know, overlapping, getting down the rights, brings it in. I don't think it was a foul. It was probably more of a fall over from Palmer.
Yeah.
You know, kind of lost control. Plymouth played the ball back to the keeper, and the keeper picks it up. That was a back pass.
It was a back pass. He did have a real flurry because there was the other, I don't know which side of that incident it happened, but there was also the moment where Jack Hunt sort of bravely dived in to head a ball and got a boot in the face.
Yes, I do remember that, yeah.
And he waved play on.
Play on.
And it's sort of like, don't we have this thing with head injury? I know it was in our interest to play on because it was our attack. But it meant that he stopped the game anyway, but he did it when Plymouth had possession. So it meant they got to do the kickoff, the drop ball. But it's also like, you know, isn't there supposed to be this thing with head injuries? And like, that was clear as day. Everybody in the ground saw a player duck his head down and another player kick him in the face. So I don't think it was high boot. I'm not saying it was a foul, but I thought we were supposed to have all these special rules around head injuries where you really needed to look at people as quickly as possible. It's not a play on incident. Yeah. Even when they're good, League One refs are bad. Even the very best of them is toilet. I've forgotten how the third goal came about now, Luke. We're drowning in goals.
Drowning in goals. Let me just kind of rattle through
Please do.
Chronologically some of the chances from my notes. 64th minute, some great play by Wednesday, a flurry of chance in the box from a Bannon free kick. Didn't really end up with much, but like, you know, great play. It's looking like something's going to come. 67th minute was interesting. You know, they had a handball down by the kind of right flank, you know, just by the south stand. Bannon took the free kick and looked like he completely scuffed it. He P-rolled it into FDB, who then deftly flicked out to Bannon. You know, he played, brought it forward, cut it inside, unleashed a fierce curler first curling shot wide. That was a wonderful hit. And really, at this point, I'm just saying we deserve more goals at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know. I mean, that's another one. If Bannon had scored that, we would have been talking about it for years. Like it was really nicely set up, and he hit it with such a whip. Yeah, because he sort of unfortunately had a pretty poor shot to end one of that sort of like goalmouth scrambly thing around the free kick. Bannon was the last one to have the shot then, wasn't he? I think, which wasn't too far off, but it was a typical sort of Bannon effort. Have you also listed when the Deli Bashiru sort of similar sort of effort from the edge of the box that was a bit tame?
I missed that one in my notes, I'm going to be honest. There's so many chances to look at in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Really, really dominated the thing. And then kind of came like a little bit of a spell of some kind of slightly worrying moments, kind of Plymouth.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really enjoyed was, you know, even at this stage in the game when typically some of our pacey wide players are typically starting to, you know, get a bit exacerbated, losing their breath. we're still looking great on the counter. And there's a few moments of us going through that, and Mendez-Laing just surging forward. He was looking fantastic. That's all I've got from my notes. That brings us to the goal on the 78th minute. And again, another great Mendez-Laing corner, which nothing really happened. It seemed to evade everyone. Palmer did very well to kind of cycle it back from the corner, took it, knocked it back to Hutch. And I love when Hutch does this. Sorry, Hunt does this. Apologise. Hunt. Hunt takes that touch and he kind of lifts his boot up and kind of controls and like rolls it forward underneath his boot.
Yes. Yeah.
And then swung in the most wonderful cross that he can do. He can do those lovely tees, curled crosses in. They look so great from the angle I have. I'd love to see them. Maybe one day I can see Wednesday, but it might not be when Jack hunts, unfortunately. But anyway, swung it over wonderfully. Hutchinson got up, met it so sweetly, powered it down into the ground and into the nets. 3-1.
It's a great time to score again. Like, games are built on these, what you do in those big moments, aren't they? And we do have that, as you say, there was that little dip in momentum, a dip in, it wasn't necessarily that Plymouth got on top, but we stopped being quite so dominant. But thankfully we never stopped being a goal threat. And just at that key time, probably just before the substitutions are starting to get made for both teams, it's a gorgeous cross. It's a gorgeous cross. It's and Hutch, it's the sort of run and a header that has everybody kind of looking around to see. He wasn't offside, but he was so kind of isolated and on in a space of his own by the time he gets to the header that you almost think something must have gone wrong, and I guess what went wrong was their defensive line. But he made the most of it. It was a great header, great stuff. So you're sort of thinking, oh great, so 3-1, well nice, that's going to be us, we'll sail home now. Jobs are good and pats on the back all around. Were there any chances before they got?
No, I don't really remember anything else. The last two notes I've really got are just the last two goals, which unfortunately one came along to make us think, oh no, we're not people who should have a 2-goal lead in this game.
It just made the last one all the sweeter, Luke, don't worry.
Sure.
But this was scrappy. It seemed to just come from nowhere.
Well, they were kind of doing similar things to what, especially in that position that we had in the first half. Obviously they're attacking Lepping's lane, which we did in the first half, so it's their time to do that. And then it seemed like the player, whoever it is that put the cross in, was very kind of Marvin Johnson-esque. Nice cross in, I must say. Met it very well with a header. The thing that's just so heartbreaking about this is that, it's so much power on that header for whoever headed it for Plymouth. And I apologise that I'm lapsing on the names. But frankly, I don't know. We spent a lot of time fawning over how good Plymouth are. So I think we can, in previous episodes, so we can take some time to just talk about them like they're anonymous children.
The other thing is, they did, outside of scoring twice, they did nothing. Plymouth were terrible today.
No, they weren't.
But they got 2 goals. The two times they looked at our goal, they scored.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, one was a great goal. This one was, great cross, great header, pings it against the post with some real venom. Bailey Peacock-Farrell's already committed. He's gone there. The thing that's heartbreaking is from there, it just dinks directly off him into the air. And there's encapsulating melee. I think at the time they gave the credit to a Plymouth player for putting it over the line, but I was there pretty certain that it was a known goal, and people did verify that as such, that it was a Marvin Johnson own goal.
Marvin Johnson
trying to get in there to kind of hook it out and
do whatever he could.
Good finish. Good finish from Marvin Johnson to put it in the back of his net. But it just feels like that we're Sheffield Wednesday, we can't have nice things.
We're Sheffield Wednesday, we can't have nice things. We break all our toys.
However, it wasn't going to end up that way, was it? And
oh my goodness.
The same minute.
I mean, in a game of sumptuous moments.
Can you even recall, Rich, who Flash Score are telling me that the assist for the goal for Josh Windus's goal, the fourth for Sheffield Wednesday in this 4-2 game that had six goals, came from Liam Palmer.
Roaming goal threat, Liam Palmer. Even when you think we're just kicking off and knocking it around, Liam Palmer is thinking goals, goals, goals. If it was, and I have no reason not to believe Flash Store. If that ball was by Liam Palmer, I mean, absolutely. In the words of that terrible old racist, sexist man, Andy Gray, take a bow, my son, take a bow. Because it was fantastic. The weight of it. Mm-hmm. To see the run is incredible. To find the run is something else. And then Windass takes a touch. It's not just even in the top drawer. It's in like a secret compartment at the back of the top drawer. That touch.
It's top drawer of a top drawer itself.
Exactly.
The borrowers have got in there and set up another drawer system in the top drawer.
It's the top of the Trump Tower in the borrower's world that exists in the top drawer. Beautiful, beautiful view up there. Beautiful view. You can see all of the bras and panties that you want to see. You can see them up there. How did we get here, Luke? How did we get here?
Don't know.
Josh Windus just scores like it is nothing. What goals? Oh yeah, I got a few of those.
Let's just break this down, right, Rich? The first thing he does, he has the audacity to control it, just like something out of the top tier of English football, Oh, or maybe the cream of European football. Maybe this is what Lewandowski does on the training ground, possibly.
People will think this is hyperbole, Luke, because we're high as kites after talking about this wonderful game. But I believe I will stand by this in 20, 30 years' time. It's a first touch as good as Bergkamp's against Argentina.
Lordy.
Isn't it? I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can't. I don't have both of those things. I can't even get highlights of the first goal on iFollow. So, one of these is readily available on YouTube. The other one will be forthcoming eventually. But if you want to do a video, Rich, where you
to see it back, but in real time, this looked like something like just utterly unbelievable.
I do want you now, Rich, to do a comparison video of the two next year.
That's maybe one of my favourite goals of all time, that Bergkamp goal against Argentina. Anyway, sorry. Talk about Josh Windus. Forget about silly, that old man, Dennis Bergkamp, who
played long into his feet. He controls it down. It looked from where I was like this isn't an angle that he could ever have a route into the corner of the net. Controls it down, swivels, and it's just so casual. Like he's got his back to the goal initially when he first controls it. So, but this is Josh Windus. He knows where the back of the net is.
He does.
Literally does that on this occasion.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing with that first touch, by the way, this is not nothing. That was his first touch in the game.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe he hadn't touched the ball since coming on. And the first thing he does is take a rocket from the sky and stop it dead. And the second thing he does is smash it into the goal. Unbelievable. I mean, in a second, he shows you exactly why we've been missing Josh Windus all season.
But he's done this because he's done this during this period of his Wednesday career, right? Coming back from, it's been great. He's been doing, I mean, he has had some kind of very pivotal saves in recent Sheffield Wednesday games coming off the bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just having he's turning into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at this point. He's
a real clutch player.
He is turning into a real clutch player. Yeah. What a finish that was. But yeah, I mean, I'd rather it had not finished 3-2, but if that's all I was given as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I'd be like, fine. We've come off such a great period, such a bad period, and then a long period without any football. to come back and then put Plymouth to the sword, who looked like they were our ultimate kind of bogey side for this season. So yeah, have that up, you Pilgrims.
Oh yeah, just fun, just a fantastic finish, and then it was pretty sort of plain sailing from then on. I did enjoy. There was a moment when Marvin Johnson, the sort of the wing opened up to him very late on, and you could just tell, like, he got to about halfway and I was like, I'm gonna have to keep running, aren't I? And you could tell there was like just a slight sigh in his demeanor as he pushed the ball forward. What's your man that pushes the rock up the hill?
Sisyphus.
Can you remember what he's called? Sisyphus, yeah. His Sisyphean task of being a winger is to stare at those yards of green in front of him and know that he has to carry the ball down. And I also loved there was actually, I'm going to say, I've said this too, I think it was maybe more, but Jack Hunt playing a gorgeous crossfield ball to Mendez-Laing, whose first touch was to sort of like do almost, I don't know, it's like a cricket shot or something. He did like a sort of little like chip over his man and raced in behind him. I loved that. That was great. And just a lot of fun Deli Bashiru stuff. Bannon went off injured. I think that's maybe a slight cause for concern, but hopefully it was just a kind of cautionary, preemptive efforts. But Deli Bashiru, I thought he'd run his race, but then suddenly was pulling out all of the tricks and really shone in those dying embers as he played around with those midfielders from Plymouth who were just waiting for the final whistle. Great stuff.
Great stuff.
Sort of a horrible defensive performance, but it doesn't matter when you've got all of the ball and you look so dangerous when you've got the ball.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, one is a really great free kick, and the other goal is a bit of real slice of luck for Plymouth and a real slice of misfortune for us.
I did see, you know, that you do some of the benefits of being at the match. Sorry to rub it in, Luke, but one thing I did like when Windass scored his goal, Luongo immediately went and spoke to about 3 or 4 of the people, the defenders, and he was still telling them off for how they defended that for the Plymouth goal. So he went and told Deli Bashiru to, like, he needed to be on his man, and he did a very like smash him sort of gesture kind of thing. And he went and talked to Jack Hunt, so I think it was just nice to see his kind of leadership qualities. I think Bannon leads from the front. Bannon wants to grab the ball and show you what you should be doing. He leads by example. When he talks to people, it's generally like shouting, people telling him off. You could see Luongo organising and telling people where to stand and telling people where to press. And it's just nice to see those sort of moments. And it shows you why, not just the fact he's a great passer of the ball, not just the fact he's a great reader of the game, not just the fact he's a great tackler, a last-ditch tackler. It's also that having a picture in your head and organising people, telling them where they need to be, what they need to do. Good teams are made up of captains, not just the guy that wears the armband. And it was nice to see from Luongo him sort of filling that role, even though he doesn't carry the armband. So yeah, a fine win.
Definitely so. Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Just what we needed. Maybe unfortunately go and give us some hope to go and do something next game, which might be completely a real flight of fantasy. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, we're a patchy side. I mean, as well as having bad performances and things that we think we can do a lot better, we do have some games like this where we look really, really good. And this was a great performance all around. So let's just give a lot of kudos today.
I think so. I mean, in the same way, I think when I'm looking at it and saying, obviously what we can't factor in is where are Plymouth in these things? How are they fixed in terms of their availability? And what we don't know is was this just a terrible Plymouth performance, and that sort of elevated our performance. But what I know from a Wednesday point of view, looking at that, is I think that didn't feel like a magic trick. It felt like all things that we could probably do fairly consistently. Like that back three is one that works okay. And I think actually when we tried to insert Dunkley into it, it worked. It didn't work as well. So there's a familiarity there and there's a balance there. I think Mendez-Laing is starting to look like it kind of works on the left. I think that's the weak point, is those two, because they're not defenders, either of them. And it was kind of frustrating a few times today. Even Johnson seemed to be in situations where you just think, just get rid of the ball. Why are you like think moments that just should have stopped, and he went on longer, and sometimes he lost the ball to a Plymouth player, or sometimes he ended up giving away a foul or something. And so there's a few frustrating things where he sort of dallies when he just needs to be a bit more decisive. But sorry, I've ended up wandering down a kind of slight negative. But I suppose what I'm saying is those two wing backs, I think, could probably do that against most teams. We know Jack Hunt can do it week in, week out.
Oh yeah.
I think Mendez-Laing probably can as well.
I hope so. I mean, who else have we got in these roles now? I mean, there's no Cabano anymore.
Yeah.
Who knows if it's going to come on our radar that we need to replace him with somebody else. But I mean, in a sense, like, that was the thing that irritated me so much about the Dom Howson things. Like, yeah, we know a lot of these players, the players we have as options just aren't particularly great. You know, Marvin Johnson hasn't really done it there. You know, now obviously we've got feels like we have a bigger need for him at centre back, and he's being converted there. But also him and Palmer kind of getting forward as part of the kind of that almost like overlapping centre backs mentality is working really well. I would say, or better than some of our other options maybe at centre back right now, because there's not a great deal else. And Jaden Brown has been disappointing. Shadipo hasn't been very good as well. Maybe that's it. Maybe that, you know, if we've got a consistent performer in Jack Hunt on the right, all we can do is just kind of hope that, you know, Mendez-Laing is on form, or if not, then someone like Shadipo, I think owes us some performances. He really does.
I know. I don't know whether that we're going to be able to cash that check, to be honest. But isn't it strange? I mean, I would say now it's debatable between Hunt and Palmer in terms of right wing back, but possibly Palmer is my first choice right wing back. He's my first choice right-sided centre-back. He's my first choice left-sided centre-back. He's probably my first choice for left wing-back as well. And that is a real testament to Liam Palmer's versatility. It also shows that we lack great quality options. I think we've got some okay options and do a job options. I think Mendez-Laing, certainly for games at home or when we're away to a team that we're expecting to kind of take the game to them, I think Mendez-Laing looks like a good left-sided option. I don't know where that leaves us when we need to defend, because every team will think that's where you go. You aim for is those two. You try and single them out. You try and isolate them. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think I keep saying so, but I'm not talking about Silla. That's the real surprise, isn't it? We've not seen him given that opportunity.
No.
And if he can replicate that sort of performance, I think he feels like maybe my favourite choice to go alongside Gregory. Is that crazy?
It is, because it's one game. But I kind of know, though. I know.
If you can do that again, that's what I want to happen round Gregory.
This is the interesting thing. I mean, like, it's great to have a game where you win, so you're not instantly ruining, well, Sheffield Wednesday in general, but also ruining the fact that, like, there's so many players who we're missing who are out injured.
Yeah,
like, that is huge for a Wednesday fan to be in this situation right now. So
Windass is probably, sorry, I should just say, Windass is probably my favourite choice.
Yeah,
for doing what Sow's doing.
Oh, it's nice to have Windass as this impact sub right now.
It is,
because he's doing it, and he's doing it really well. When he comes on, it's incredible. There's that. I mean, outside of that, one thing we didn't talk about in the kind of any of our kind of coverage news in the past few weeks is the stuff about Canberra, which is very interesting. So
Oh
looks like
yeah.
Canberry's been carrying a knock, and he wanted to address
Yes.
that, and apparently he's actually paid for his own kind of surgery.
I've heard. Yeah.
He's
But
that
I think he's back in the fold now, isn't he? I think he's back. Is he back from Switzerland now, or is that?
he is, yeah, but I think he's still kind of getting back up and running. I'll be honest with you. So I think that's what they were saying in, as much as my criticism of Domhausen, I really enjoy reading his post-match transcripts, chatting with Darren Moore. I think that's some of the best stuff.
Just on Canberry, did you see apologies to the poster from Al's talk? I don't. I haven't noted your name. I'm very sorry about this. But there was a thread saying that when Canberry plays, we never lose. And there's only one game that Canberry has played in that we've lost, and he didn't start that game. So every time Canberry has started, we've never lost a game that Canberry has started.
Interesting.
Which does kind of point to that thing. We had an episode called "There's Something About Canberry," and it does point to there's something useful about him. So I guess that's a tricky thing for South.
Something that we can't put our finger on, really. But yeah, he looks like they said he's still not kind of fit.
Yeah.
Moore is also saying that he doesn't think he's going to add to the squad before Oxford, obviously next week.
Okay.
He said, I've been told players available from January 28th and 29th if we're willing to wait. He's like saying he wants to work now.
We always leave it to the very last second, don't we?
Well, we do, but I mean, everybody does, right? This is just some great kind of festive culture of brinksmanship.
I'm always amazed if we do anything outside of the last second.
It's the 31 days of Christmas in January where there are no presents.
Yeah. I would prefer more of a Hanukkah-esque transfer window with 8 present nights. I know nothing about Hanukkah outside of the Adam Sandler song, I must say. Full disclosure.
Rich, I think we're going to have I think this is a really difficult conversation to have, right? And by that, it's the most difficult thing to say, which is, Rich, I feel like me and you are going to have different answers to this. Who would you have as your man of the match for this game?
Oh, MOTM. There's so many good options. I think probably I would go Mendez-Laing.
Nice. Thank you. That's my choice as well. But it feels like a difficult choice because, I mean, there's a lot of great performers today. I mean, it's great to see Sow in the mix and scoring and having a good game and looking part of the options. Bannon played very well. Massimo Luongo was fantastic.
He was great.
And so was Jack Hunt.
Palmer, Palmer was so good today as well, particularly second half. When head started to dip a little bit, Palmer just found another gear that just kind of carried us through to an extent. Hunt was really good. It's hard after the second half. I think Peacock Farrell, unfortunately, didn't cover himself in glory in the second half. First half, I thought he picked out some ups. Everybody was playing just worldy passes over the top.
Yeah.
But Peacock Farrell hit a couple. He hit one gorgeous one that dropped in for Gregory that he couldn't quite turn into something. He played a beautiful one for Hunt as well. That Hunt had to sort of scramble to keep in, but it put him in a fine position as well. But yeah, I think you've got to go Mendez-Laing. I think he just carried that threat all game, and that's what you want from a winger. Really, you want the right wing back for Plymouth and the right-sided centre back won't have many games tougher than they had today. I think he just gave them a torrid time, aided and abetted by Johnson being good and a threat and positioning himself well, aided and abetted by Sow doing the same. But just so many, it's just lovely seeing somebody carry a ball forward like he does. We've had so few of those in recent years. The dribblers that we've had have been few and far between. It's just nice seeing somebody eat up the ground and drop a shoulder, and nice to see. Now I hope that's kind of his arrival as a Wednesday player, because I don't really doubt that he's on his day he's head and shoulders above this division. You know, he's more than good enough for this level. And he's not alone in our squad in being able to say that. So when a couple of them have a day, then it's hard for teams to keep up with us. But if we can get more of those to perform consistently, then that's what it's all about, really. For Big Daz, a treat, a rare treat
indeed.
I don't think there's a huge amount more to add.
No, I think that covers it.
We've got Oxford up next, part of the Oxbridge Mafia.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say as well. And then, I mean, it's interesting with like all the postponed games, like the nature that we can't seemingly get any of in like very soon. So it's like we've only got
February where those two have been pushed back to, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's basically been 4 games. There'll be 4 games in January. I say there'll be 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, touch wood, something else could be postponed. That could happen, but it's a pretty scant month, really, for football.
It's strange, isn't it? Yeah, January. But we're going to have a busy February. I think we're Saturday, Tuesday, most of February now.
February has, according to my calculations, 8 games.
Wow.
So we've just doubled it, basically.
And I don't know if you know this about February, Luke, but that's a short month.
It is. That's so true.
Dear me, sorry. Oh, little guy, real little guy. It's no Mendez-Laing is February.
That's very true.
Who's that little aggro prick for Plymouth? He's my villain of the day.
Which
the little guy that came on near the end? See, number 7. He scored against us. He scored the 3rd one against us, I think, like at their place.
Is it Broom? You're thinking of Ryan Broom.
Is it Broom? Yeah, I think it is Broom. He absolutely smashed Peacock Farrell at the end and somehow didn't get a yellow for it. Douchebag. Anyway, lovely to beat them. Lovely to put that to bed. Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap things up. I think wish you all the best for the week ahead, Luke. I hope you managed to get your body clock in sync with the actual clock.
Me too. I'm going to go have a nap after this, I'll be honest.
Well, best of luck with that. It's no fun at all. And look after yourself, folks at home, and we'll talk again next week. Cheerio.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.